Hello, everyone. It is Friday, the 5th of April, 2024. Friday. And I was up around 2:30 a.m. Couldn't get back to sleep. And so I decided to do my prep for the day early and just get the video done. And then maybe I'll take a nap afterwards. Snowed out. Definitely going to have to shovel a lot of snow today for my driveway and my sidewalk path and deck in other areas. And the snowfall hit pretty much all across Canada. So people on the east and west coast are telling me that they were also hit with snow. And there are people that I know that are suffering, not suffering, but like they're experiencing power outages. And yeah, all interesting things. During eclipse season, everyone thinking that, eclipses happen, once every 100-something years. That's misinformation. Eclipse season happens every single year, multiple times a year. There's different degrees of eclipses where the sun and the moon have a shadow cast. But anyway, a lot of groundbreaking information again that you're not going to get anywhere else. And I don't even know where to start. Maybe I'll start with my X feed, formerly known as Twitter, and get through that list. She's great. Eva Chibiuk. She's a lawyer, Canada, and she's really holding a lot of people within government to task and calling out a lot of stuff. It's been amazing. She did a poll and asked, if you could leave Canada today and live in another country, would you? And 78% of people, including myself, said yes. And I gave my reason why. Is it in the comments? Anyway, my point was our country's been destroyed in the last, especially in the last 8 years by and I named the people: Chrystia, Freeland, Justin Trudeau, and their lobbyist propaganda friends like Steve Guilbeault and Pascal Saint-Onge and Melanie Joly and Marco Mancino, and these criminals have destroyed the country. It didn't take long. And the demographic of these people is interesting. The smallest demographic in for percentages in Canada, causing the highest percentage of suffering and death for Canadians and stuff like that. So look at this, 78% of Canadians. This is for everyone outside of Canada to see how bad it is here. And these are even veterans of 30 plus years that are saying at this point, yes, they would, because they don't feel safe in Canada. They don't feel like it's a mess. It's a mess. And Justin Trudeau is delusional. This fucking clown, again, even yesterday, literally thinks that people are upset because of, I don't even know, things other than himself. He's like, oh, when things get more stressful in life, or, people tend to look at their government and blame the government, for things that they may be experiencing that is not the government's fault. Are you fucking mad? You fucking clown. Why is there a carbon tax protest right now? Because you're stealing from us and you haven't even let us know how much money you've already stolen from us with this carbon scam. Okay? Carbon dioxide being a fucking gas, you moron, not a pollution, not a pollutant, not pollution or a pollutant, and required to sustain life. And you need to have people within the rural areas and the farm areas in order to manage the land, the grid, the solar panel. Getting more people they're getting more people in, migrants from other countries, millions in Canada as well, but in the US as well. It's more in the media. Cheaper labor. There's people that are shutting down like companies, industries all over the US and Canada, and they're moving locations to areas that are called sanctuary cities, or areas where people are coming in and where they can, and they're giving them so many incentives. They're giving them on-site daycare. They're giving them vehicles. They're giving so much. And it's because it's cheaper labor. And so this is disgusting. So these are Canadians and Americans that are also eating their own. And so it's getting worse. And there's even videos out there of young women getting punched in the face, young white women getting punched in the face by migrants, whether it be legal or illegal. They're getting punched in the face. And that's why the Coast Guard? Anyway, that's why people were called in in order to into these areas in order to assist people in the subways. And I might not show you the videos because they're fucking disgusting, but there's more stabbings as well. And it's not Americans or Canadians that are doing it. And they're stabbing and killings on subways, on train systems, for transit systems and stuff like that, in areas where there's more migration being pushed in from other countries where it's fighting age males, okay? And even in Canada, 28,000 illegal migrants are unaccounted for, just from CBSA, admitting it, just in the last year, untracked. I already talked about the riot police. Oh, yeah. So there's a guy that assaulted a young woman last week. He was on the Jimmy Dore show. And I looked at his name was Skipobi Stora. And this guy, wants to be mayor, trying to be mayor. And anyway, someone that's apparently has worked in government or has wanted to work in government and is super racist. He's calling her a white black supremacist. He punched a young woman, 22 years old, in the face, where she actually passed out on the street. She was looking at her phone. She got sucker punched by this fucking psychopath, and got knocked out. And he was still screaming at her like a psychopath. This is what I mean. People are disgusting now. And men in Canada and the US are not experiencing this. It's the young women, okay? And people are laughing at this, but you wouldn't be laughing if it was your daughter. You wouldn't be laughing, or if you would, you'd be a fucking psychopath. You wouldn't be laughing if it was your mother or your grandmother. So why are you laughing if it's another woman? I think you're projecting a little bit. So I mean, I've talked about even having my house broken into. I've said before, even my ex can even confirm this. He did come and visit again to see the dogs. And I was yeah, remember when I was on this area? And I'm yeah, that guy that had didn't even speak English fucking properly yet was and I don't care to say that because he was literally harassing me and stalking me, and he would wait outside my fucking house. I lived alone at the time and stuff like that. Luckily I was dating Roman. He was a really big jack guy. So there was one Friday night, he was actually waiting outside my house parked with his fucking vehicle. He lived multiple streets down, literally waiting there, and it was 2 a.m. Luckily, my ex was with me, and as soon as he got out of the vehicle, he was driving my vehicle. The guy ran off, he drove off, and I'm just this is the guy I was talking about and stuff like that. And I'm luckily you came, because what if he literally was waiting for me? What if I came in an Uber and was drunk and he would have literally raped and killed me? Maybe, you know what I mean? What was he fucking doing there? And anyway, more trouble with stuff like that. And luckily I have witnesses, and luckily he was scared off. But as a single woman as well, we are getting profoundly more impacted, or even if we're dating, but we're not living with our partners, and that's not our fault. So don't be oh, that's your fault. No, it's life now. People don't want to get married. People don't want to have kids. All of these things, men are cheating, men are lying, men are, so anyway, so don't blame women for shit when they're victims in situations. I do like this guy's. I'm going to get out of X because X is firing me up because it's significantly more negative these days. But this is a video clip I shared on my Instagram yesterday from a video.
2 decades, it is expected that there will be $150 billion worth of oil and gas extracted off your coast. It's an extraordinary figure. But think of it in practical terms. That means, according to many experts, more than 2 billion tons of carbon emissions will come from your seabed, from those reserves, and be released into the atmosphere. I don't know if you, as a head of state, went to the COP in Dubai.
Let me stop you right here. Do you know that Guyana has a forest forever that is the size of England and Scotland combined? A forest that stores 19.5 gigatons of carbon.
Boom.
A forest that we have kept alive. A forest that we have kept alive.
Does that give you the right? Does that give you the right to release all of this?
Shut your mouth.
Does that give you the right to lecture us on climate change. I am going to lecture you on climate change.
Yep.
Because we have kept this forest alive that stores 19.5 gigatons of carbon that
There
you
you go.
enjoy, that the world enjoy, that you don't pay us for, that you don't value, that you don't see a value in, that the people of Guyana has
Boom.
kept alive. Guess what? We have the lowest deforestation rate in the world. And guess what? Even with our greatest exploration of the oil and gas resource we have now, we will still be net zero. Guyana will still be net zero. With all our exploration,
Couple of
we'll
points.
still be net zero.
Couple of points.
Powerful words, Mr.
Couple of
President.
points.
I'm
No,
not
not even letting him
yet.
speak.
I am not finished as yet. I am just not finished as yet. Because this is the hypocrisy that exists in the world. The world in the last 50 years has lost 65% of all its biodiversity. We have kept our biodiversity. Are you
Just in the past couple of decades, we've lost 65% of our biodiversity. Look at the first world countries. This is what I've been saying for the last few years and yelling at fucktards that are shredding trees, even on heritage sites that are hundreds of years old. Fucktards. Fucktards. And these are people that literally should be in jail. Clearly they're not. Clearly they're fucking predators. And especially in suburbs and around city areas, millions of trees were shredded just on the outskirts of Ottawa, within Ottawa alone. Just in this area where we needed the most trees, they were shredded for migrants to come in, illegal and non-legal. Okay, but again, like it's a lot of people that are getting incentivized to come here, and we're paying for it, and we can't afford it right now. We have a lot of homeless Canadians right now. We have a lot of people that are in rural areas and farm areas that they can't give any more money to these people. That's why these carbon scams keep on getting increased. And guess what? Senate just got a new fucking pay raise that they don't deserve. Like, these people need jail. I just, it's so infuriating. And we're shredding trees. It's all over Canada. We're shredding trees, and we're paying fucking carbon tax. Do you think the US pays carbon tax? Do you think anyone in Europe? No. It's just Canada. And it's because we're stupid. And we have stupid people in, and we have pathetic cowards that are first responder types. There's the highest levels of government getting paid $500,000 probably a year or more, and stealing more from us. And they're too pussy to actually do their jobs. And that's why, like, even with people that I knew for years in the military, even that was like that I was still talking to, trying to get a meeting, trying to get and explain what's going on, how severe it is, how, you know, and they're too pussy to be judged. To even try to make those meetings happen, like because like I might miss my pension. I'm like, so Helen Bruce might lose her fucking pension. How many women do I know that lost their pension, and they're in the courts fighting this though because it was not justified? Where a grown ass man, 6'4", special forces type, is a pussy to Canadians, and then you have a pregnant like a pregnant army officer over 20 plus years in the Green Army. She's kicked out. More of a fucking man, more balls than these guys. And so, like, I'm just so fucking done. And this guy, like, we need to talk peacefully, but we need to, like, I don't even know, like, educate people, but they're not even looking. Because even, like, more guys that I'm trying to fucking talk to about the reality of the earth, and giving even the American Moon that video that literally debunks the moon landing, literally debunks it. And the guy, like, has the nerve to write back, doesn't even have 1 degree. Yeah, like, and fucking, anyway. Don, you know we landed on the moon. Don't be so fucking silly. A guy that literally, like, first of all, I was his boss. And this is what I mean, the ego on people. And this guy's a fucking train wreck in his fucking life. Train fucking wreck. So I'm like, first of all, I'm like my level of intellect is beyond anything that you could comprehend. And so I'm leaving it here. I've tried for the last few years to try to fucking help you with so many different other things in his life I'm talking about as well. And then also trying to like bringing something like this in, and this idiot says like people don't listen, even when I give them information they don't listen. And I'm like, and I've said millions of times, I'm like, do you realize the hypocrisy in that? Like, you do the same fucking thing. Like, this is what I mean. People work in circles, and there's even hypocrisy in the Christian religion. There's hypocrisy in the Jewish religion, in the Islamic religion, in the Hindu religion, and in fucking in all politics. It's anyways, I'm going on these tangents, but it's a fucking mess. My point to this is that men are destroying the country from the inside out, and there are women that are trying to unfuck this, and we're in the courts, and we're getting harassed, and we're getting targeted, and we're getting stalked, or raped and killed, or whatever, you know what I mean? And we got dumbasses that are not even remotely uncomfortable yet because they're big, strong men. They have the guns, they have the uniforms, they have the, you know what I mean? Like the job security and all that stuff. Just like North Korea and China, right? Fuck, we don't learn.
Are you doing it? Are you ready to pay for it? When is developed forest going to pay for it? Or are you in the pockets? Are you in the pockets of those who have damaged the environment? Are you in the pockets? Are you and your system in the pockets of those who destroyed the environment through the Industrial Revolution and now lecturing us? Are you in their pockets? Are you paid by them?
All
right, yeah, but people are.
Yeah. This Dollar Vigilante has another video out. It's really good, so I highly recommend you watch it. That's where I got the clip from. And Slovenia, that's so neat. Hello from Canada. Is it 8 or 9 hours ahead? I don't know. Maybe I'm way off. So I wanted to show before I get into. There's so much that I can share. It's ridiculous. Like James O'Keefe ousted. I've already talked about like him being possibly controlled opposition. No, I'll actually, because I really want to get into the John Searl stuff as well. But before I even got into James O'Keefe, I wanted to share this guy. I actually was not tracking him. I don't recall what his name is, but he's apparently a guy that was like a scientist working with Pfizer, 2021 and 2022 time period. And he looks like a young guy. And apparently like he was a whistleblower early on from within. And so again, you never know if this is true or not, right? But it's compelling.
And so it took me around 6 months to reach out to them and start working with them. But I worked with a team of journalists and
with James O'Keefe.
Yes. So I was not working directly with James per se when I was a whistleblower, but James knew what I was doing. You know, James knew that he had a Pfizer whistleblower source that had this bombshell story coming up.
Right.
And so, you know, there's a lot that went on in this 2.5 month time span when I was a whistleblower. It was literally, I was working 2 jobs and I wasn't getting paid to be a whistleblower. I was only getting paid to be a scientist.
Work at Pfizer, unbeknownst to Pfizer.
Yes. So I don't know how to fully describe it, but I mean, I was just working so hard to expose the truth, you know, and wanted to, you know, do no harm is like what I like to say of, you know, spiritual law of do no harm. I knew that these vaccines that I was working on were causing harm to people or, you know, killing people, causing injury, and that there was a lot of, you know, criminal negligence and malfeasance, and the way that
I'll do better next time.
That Operation Warp's being played out.
It was my first one.
Just how these vaccines were made in 9 months was absolutely ridiculous. And to be put onto the masses in such a short amount of time, it's truly heartbreaking to see, you know. So I was working with PV for 2.5 months, and, you know, in the documentary Project Whistleblower, which is the documentary that I have produced after
not even
entire
aspirating needles
3-year-long journey.
It
goes on to explain I have 3 instances of like whistleblower situations that were not told from my whistleblower experience while working with Project Veritas. And so my manager Conwall Gill explained a conspiracy of how Pfizer and BioNTech were working on an mRNA. You know, BioNTech CEO, his name is Ugur Sahin, calls Catherine Jensen, who is a vice president of research and development at the big pharma giant. And so they coordinated together. Ugur said, hey, I need to help make this RNA project big. And so Pfizer said, okay, we're good at formulations and we'll help make it big. So they're actually working on this project before COVID-19 was even a thought in our minds. They were working on this on flu. And so they needed an excuse to really get to allowing the COVID-19, you know, once COVID started being rumbled, you know, the rumblings of COVID happening, you know, it coming out of Wuhan and whatever the mainstream media was talking about, right? But just they need an excuse to allow this
Oh!
mRNA scientific platform to get pushed onto the masses. So she explains how this technology is 50 years old and how it could never get approved, and how the Pfizer and Moderna, she goes, Pfizer and Moderna used the emergency use authorization to get through this use of the mRNA technology now. And so it's really just ripe for conspiracy that they took advantage of a unaware public, unaware masses, and pushed a mRNA technology that nobody in their right mind would have taken if they were told it was a regular flu shot. But they fearmongered us with the media,
Mhm.
and
And even with the PCR testing and the rapid testing, like they claim they're able to now, but they were not able to differentiate between the flu or COVID in the beginning with these tests and these confirmations. And
the alternative media even saying that, oh, like this
that's why
injection is safe and effective
Fluvid-19, I would recommend watching that. I've shared it.
when it's literally a toxic poison bomb is what I like to call it. So
Yeah. But what
that-
did you learn? I guess so what was your role? Did you actually handle the vaccines at Pfizer, or what was your role there?
I was a Pfizer formulation analytical scientist, and I was on a small scale. It was in a small scale. So there was a small scale manufacturing team that was working in research and development and stability studies. And so they were the small scale manufacturers, and my role was to analyze the samples that they were working on. So I was working directly with the COVID-19 mRNA platform, as well as I was working on modified RNA flu vaccines and self-amplifying RNA flu vaccines primarily. And I mean, Pfizer themselves are still, they're working on RSV vaccines,
Right.
and they're pushing cancer treatment with this mRNA technology now. They're literally trying to turn it into, an mRNA company. So
Yes.
and taking advantage of the emergency use authorization. So, but I was primarily working, yes, on the COVID-19 vaccine, as well as modified RNA flu and self-amplifying RNA flu. So
Okay.
my role was just to analyze the characteristics of the vaccine, whether it came to the encapsulation of the lipid nanoparticles, the concentration, as well as the percent of RNA integrity, were the three main things that I was working on for the assays.
Okay. Gotcha. Okay. And so when did you start, I guess, what did you start realizing was unethical or immoral or unsafe about the mRNA vaccine, or what you were dealing with at Pfizer? I mean, when did that start coming to light for you?
I pretty much knew it like right away. Something was
Okay.
wrong. And I mean, I took the job kind of knowing that I wanted to see it for myself in a way. And so, I sucked it
Did
up.
you did you go in there almost already undercover, like thinking that you were going to go and sort of work to get other undercover information? Because that would be pretty cool too, if you were like, you know what, I already know Pfizer is terrible and what they're doing, but I want to see it firsthand and almost kind of go undercover to get inside information.
Well, I didn't go in literally with the intention of going undercover, but I
Okay.
mean, the thought crossed my mind. So, but I mean, I had so many things going through my brain at that point in time. So,
Right.
I mean, I wanted to see it for myself, and I was also miserable in my master's program. And I, told my parents, like, hey, I'm going to look for a job. And Pfizer was the only one who offered me a job. So I didn't really even want to work for them. It's more or less like the situation presented itself. I
Yeah.
think from God, it was just a divine intervention of him allowing me, God allowing me to see it all for myself. And
Right.
I mean, within the first month, I knew something was wrong. And I mean, I was paying attention to alternative media circles and paying attention to VAERS, paying attention to, I mean, people literally having myocarditis, all of these neurological symptoms. I was paying attention to it, and I knew that my colleagues weren't either, so I knew that like there was some sort of, I don't want to necessarily say blood on my hands, but I feel like it was, in a sense, because, I mean, I wanted to see it for myself, but since I saw so much wrong, I think the story itself is almost overblown. And
Okay.
still trying to really figure out what is in these vials, you know. So
DeGrucci or Grouchy? Taking back Eden, flu pack. Dr. Grouchy or Dr. DeGrucci? The Association of Directors of Public Health, the UK. Janelle DeGrucci. The NHS is not set up to focus on preventing illness. This was 3 years. This is more than 3 years old. President of the Association of Directors of Public Health questions why her members' expertise was not sought earlier in the coronavirus crisis. I don't know if that was it.
Yes, I was offered a job by James when I originally met him in December of 2021, and he didn't tell my whistleblower story, which, I mean, there were...
That's so funny. It led me down a rabbit hole, though, but historical lack of understanding of the importance of public health. As a society, we tend to still think that a healthy population is created by the NHS, and it's not. She said to involve the ADPH from the start of the COVID-19 crisis. Further specialist qualifications. It's faced the government agency that has faced criticism over its handling of the crisis. Helen Whately. So yeah, there's a lot of people that were trying to unfuck what was going on with the pandemic, including myself and people like me, and we're still in the courts and we're still getting victimized. Helen Bruce, take a look at her friggin' case. Yeah, it's and we have still like that we're talking to men that have been completely unfazed, promoted, lots of travel, vacations, all that stuff, because that's all they fucking did. They just easy as that. And they're like, oh, it's a little shit complicated for 6 months. I'm like, 6 fucking months for who? People that weren't vaccinated, like 2 years of our lives, we're destroyed. And then even through that, even now, oh my God, get fucked with that. Like, you have so many men and women, because the majority of people now are in suburbs and city areas, and they're living entitled little lives, and they don't understand the reality of the world.
There was so much on the line.
And when they do, it's going to be too late. And I've fucking warned people now for how many years?
For mankind at that time. And it ripped my heart out because I was too trustworthy of Project Veritas. I was a young 23-year-old man. And I said,
we don't have an MOS. Well, they do in CANTSOFCOM now, but I was in JTF too. So there's I was infantry. I was an infantry officer with the PPCLI. And so when I was in the Special Forces, I was still a PPCLI infantry officer. I was just with the JTF too. But now they're doing it where actual not with JTF too, but I know with CANTSOFCOM, they're considered their own trade now out of where they're operating out of. And that means that the good thing about that is they don't get posted out. Things like that. So there's issues with that as well. So people in the Special Forces, they're usually the people that are selected because they're the top 5% of people within their units or their within their careers or their trades all over Canada or wherever, and they're sought out for because of their expertise, and often, especially officers, they don't stay for extended periods of time because of that reason. And anyway, I hope that answered it.
Said these people are going to do the right thing, and so I gave them all of my evidence, all of the information that I was obtaining, for them to just spike it into the ground because they weren't willing to cross certain lines in a sense of like going to bat for legal things and things of that nature. And James says like, oh, I don't break the law, but like he like aided and abetted me in a sense of dealing with certain recording consent issues. Right. Like I was not aware of it and at the time, and so I just continued to do what I was doing and obtain the information that I was obtaining.
Exactly.
And I was witnessing crimes against humanity. Like we're dealing with a vice president of biotherapeutics and research and development, Nick Warren, telling me that he gamed the FDA in a meeting, and it links all the way to the formulation of the childhood vaccine approval for 5 to 11-year-olds, where they changed the form.
Thanks. I'm US SOF 18A. No woman has ever qualified for Canadian Special Forces. What do you mean no woman has ever qualified for Canadian Special Forces? Do you mean as an assaulter? I didn't apply. So like, I feel I was asked to apply too. So like that to even do the selection, but because I was 2IC, second in command of that squadron, it would be seen as a conflict of interest because all that training and stuff like that was run literally out of the squadron that I was in and managing. And so I worked there. I literally have plaques and awards of being there. So I really don't care if people are trying to deny that. Like, I'm sorry.
Formulation
Not sorry.
from PBS sucrose or phosphate buffer saline, excuse me, to tris buffer. And
Okay.
the tris buffer did not have any clinical trial data.
You're such a okay. I'll show one thing to a dumbass that I don't know anything to. What does that say, dumbass? And what is that logo? And that's a plaque. Captain Don Dussault from the Special Forces. Says it right on the fucking plaque, you loser. So I'm going to hide you and block you and go fuck yourself. Carrying on.
Done for the 5 to 11-year-old approval, which is insane. And I mean, this was
they're fucking
public
losers.
information because it was done on the FDA panel meeting for this approval. But nobody, and I mean nobody, besides like Pfizer scientists and people that watched that meeting could comprehend that and understand that that's what happened. And so they approved this emergency use authorization and then allowed it to go into the arms of millions of young kids, 5 to 11-year-olds. And so like it was gut-wrenching stuff, heart-wrenching.
Here's another cool one. Oh, no, you can't see it. Oh, wait, now you can. Ah. Wait, no, I took the background off. Virtual background. None. What does that say? Joint Task Force 2. And is that Jump Company? Is that a Special Forces coin in the middle? Cogito ergo. Armadium sum. Go fuck yourself, guy who fucking says I was lying. This is what I mean. There's so many insecure people. I was Special Forces. You weren't. You're on my page, motherfucker. I could show like so many more, but again, I won't. But what a
heart-wrenching stuff that I had to go through, and
that's
to
my
not
name.
be able to blow the whistle on something like that and save millions of kids.
Right.
Like, it was the most heart-wrenching thing. And so, you know, I took the job because I made a promise to God to go get my Pfizer story back, basically. You know, I wanted to do undercover journalism, but also get my Pfizer story back somehow. And so in Project Whistleblower, I tell other stories that were spiked. I mean, there was an investigation linked to the white blood clots that come out of, you know, embalmer, you know,
Right.
embalmers are pulling out of people's necks and out of their thighs, which, you know, is linked to died suddenly, where, you know, embalmers and funeral directors are just talking and blowing the whistle about this.
Yes.
You know, but this was going down in 2021. And
that you were seeing.
Or excuse, no, this was 2022 at the time this investigation happened. But yeah, is like for to at least not speculate on this type of information, you know, like I'll send you the photos to show on this. It's crazy. Like these white clots do not look normal whatsoever. And so coming from a Pfizer scientist perspective, and then coming from an investigative journalist perspective, it's like, once I heard that leadership and the board didn't want to tell the story, you know, but then they're willing to tell this Jordan Walker story, which is like, really, I mean, you know, I don't want to shoot down my own story, but it's baseless in the sense of like, it felt like he could have just been trying to impress me in a way, you know, or at least he's talking about the virus when the reality of the directed evolution is of mankind. It's not the virus. It's directing the evolution of like.
Okay, so James O'Keefe is going to be coming out as being a Bohemian Grove. This is when I went to West Point Military Academy. I actually won the top award for people. Like I was one of 2 cadets selected to go when I was in my 4th year, and then I was the squadron leader after that. And so like these are coins that I've gotten from like the MPs, people that I've trained from CSIS coins. I've got multiple coins again working with CSIS, training them, special operation stuff like RCMP, like so many different coins. Like this is also again like just proof that I went to fucking West Point and won not only like the gold coin for having like the like being the like having like the athletic award or whatever, but I also got these badges too. Physical fitness excellence. And here's my Afghanistan medal with a fucking bar on it. It's like people can just get fucked sometimes, honestly. I got so many trolls.
Like the human genome in a way, you know.
So you're saying James O'Keefe, or in the head of Project Veritas,
yeah,
intentionally stifled.
Like CSIS, CBSA, CSEC, like all these high, like ERT, RCMP, but the higher level stuff. I was coordinating that, like the planning, the operational planning courses and stuff like that. And like this is what I mean, like the high fucking level stuff, even in the high level fucking organizations, I was high level. But then when you're a good person and you realize the reality of the fucking world and you're trying to share information and data with people that don't want to fucking look at it, then this is what happens. You become a whistleblower.
Your stories, some of the stories that you thought were even bigger, more impactful for children or for people's health. And
I've got
you had these stories, you had the evidence, but James O'Keefe.
And it's never to brag. Like, I hate saying this, but again, just people keep saying that I'm fucking lying about things. And I literally have like baskets, bins full of certificates and certifications and like, you know what I mean? And so people could just fuck off right now. Like, I just like, so not everyone anyway, you know what I mean? The trolls
at all were not allowing them to come out, which is odd to me.
Yeah. So it was linked to an embalmer source, literally, who was an embalmer for over 10 years, I believe. And he was just raising questions, wanted us to investigate it. And, you know, leadership thought, hey, we're not going to raise any questions to speculate at all. And I mean, it's not like people weren't talking about it. Like Stu Peters was talking about it for sure. And there were other embalmer whistleblowers out there talking about this. But to come from the lips of James and Project Veritas would have been really bombshell, you know, because that would have been
confirmed it
affirming a lot. Absolutely. Right. So to get to O'Keefe Media Group, there were two other whistleblower stories I wanted to bring up with you. There's Kim Witzak, who is currently on an FDA committee of psychopharmacologic drug and safety for like SSRIs and just, you know, that psychotropic drugs basically. And so back in 2016 and 17, there was a black box warning vote removal that occurred. And this is the first time this has ever happened. And so she was on this committee and was taken off of this vote for, like, she wasn't really even given a reason. And I mean, the only real reason is that she was the only one who was going to be voting no on Chantix for having this drug warning removed. And if you talk to any psychiatrist who knows what they're doing, they don't prescribe this drug because it's linked to violence and suicidality. But they took the black box warning off when Kim was taken off of this vote. So, you know, I don't think anyone voted no, or maybe one person voted no. And so they got by with getting away with this. And then Pfizer saw nearly $1 billion in revenue in 2 years for Chantix. And so this was just a huge story that didn't get really any coverage. And, you know, I felt it was a really strong story, and so did Redacted, because after like 10 months of having her as a source and wanting to tell her story, she finally got to tell her story in January on Redacted. So, you know, thankfully she got to do that. But I mean, she had the opportunity, and James had the opportunity to talk to her way earlier in the spring of 2023. So just horrible. And then Raymond Bichard is also another whistleblower who he actually has a story on Twitter where if you change the search settings on Twitter, it allows for like an open source forum of like child pornography and exploitation, where if you change the search settings and you put in certain hashtags, you can find really horrible photos, is the way I'll put it. And I'll leave it at that because I don't want to get too deep into it. But look into Raymond Bichard. He's got this incredible story called Clean Twitter Now. And so I had bounced this idea and this story off of other journalists that at OMG, and they also thought it was a story. So he sat down with James, and it was like a 40-minute interview, and then James like pulled the rug on the story again. And so, you know, I feel like anyone with like common sense, or like with like, you know, some, you know, with the eyes to see and the ears to hear, would have seen that and be like, wow, this is a huge story. Like this could lead to like child endangerment, essentially.
Of course,
you know,
yeah.
something needs to be done about this. And Raymond has credibility, as he did the same exact thing with Facebook in 2012. So
Okay.
it's not like he's just
Wow.
some dude who did this, you know. So
Wow.
and yeah, to wrap up, I mean, shortly after that whistleblower story was spiked about Raymond, I had uncovered that James went to Bohemian Grove in spring, or not spring, summer of 2023. And so I found a tent slip and covered a tent slip with the Bohemian Grove at the top and with James's name and his camp name, Ty Binders. So he was invited as a guest this year.
So he was invited as a guest. He wasn't just going as an undercover, you know, to try to sleuth like Alex Jones did.
No, and so that it's something that is bringing a lot of credibility to, you know, people questioning credibility of James as well as Alex Jones. Even, you know, it's like, who's telling the truth at this point in time? Like, is the Bohemian Grove some? I mean, Alex Jones like fearmongers with Bohemian Grove, saying that it's like this pedophile cult where they like eat babies and like do mock sacrifices of effigies. And
I've never said that either. I've said that these are all alleged claims, but I do say that there are pedophiles that do go to Bohemian Grove. Absolutely. Do they do stuff there? I don't know. But do they do stuff other places? Yes.
Worship.
That is what I heard. I mean, it's
allegedly.
It's pretty much like,
and it's all men.
The deep state of the.
And it's not to hate on men. It's not to hate on men. And again, there's people in the special forces that are great people that I still talk to on a regular basis, obviously. But some of them have profoundly disappointed me. And he's already been doxxed, but I won't say his name again. A fucking engineer, though. That's what bothers me. And like what you would consider to be a super huge alpha male. And he was literally part of the fucking trans movement, marching with his own child, you know, as part of the of grooming of children, castration, sterilization of children. Not anything to do with LGB or that community, because no one has cared about any of this stuff, right? Like it's just attention seekers that are trying to exploit an organization that that was founded with good intentions, and now even people in the LGB community are, you know, they regret how things have gotten. Oh my god! And Gays Against Groomers too. And Gays Against Groomers are seen as like some kind of like a right-wing extremist friggin' organization. And Gays Against Groomers is literally just talking about like not giving children like hormone blockers and things like that, because these sterilize children and castrate children, and not doing like the body mutilation stuff, like not cutting off of peepees or breasts. Okay, because when you do that too, like you're removing like the ability to breastfeed children, possibly, if you ever look to reverse this. And people are claiming that these procedures are reversible, even with the hormone blockers, and they're not. And there are people within the trans community that are detransitioning, that are trying to speak out on that. And these are other people that are legitimately people that were exploited, in my humble opinion, by predators that were just looking at money, and they're not getting voices. And there are people that are pretending to be lawyers and teachers and experts and stuff like that are pushing and promoting this stuff, and they're mentally disordered.
The deep state elites, that's where they go to plan and orchestrate things every year. And you really can't get in there unless you're in the secret elite of elitist clubs.
Well, I don't think I'll ever get invited to the Bohemian Grove.
Yeah, I don't think I will either.
And I don't think you'll ever get invited either.
No.
That's what I said too. When I was in, and I served for 15 fucking years in the infantry, by the way. That's hard on your goddamn body as a woman. And because of that, I also had to work out on my own and make sure my diet was on point. Like, and so, and doing firearms training on my own, a lot of things on my own time is what I mean, because I was a woman, and I was more impacted by the elements. I was more impacted by going extended periods of time without proper nutrition or hydration or things like that. And I fully admit this. This is what I mean. People don't want to invite me to any of these panels when we're talking about women within the Canadian Armed Forces, and I have like volunteered to be part of these committees too, because I'm going to tell them, you need to taper your expectations and understand that there's also your own responsibility of making yourself a hard target or making yourself suitable for the job when you're in and maintain throughout, or you're a liability and then you have to leave, right? And so I know I talk really, but what's wrong with this stuff? Yeah, exactly. Like, no, so kids are not allowed to drink or drive or take other drugs, recreational drugs, ironically, but they're allowed to take ADHD medications, which I think are really extreme drugs that kids shouldn't be taking. But like, there's so many things they can't do under the age of 18 for a reason, and our brains are not even fully developed until the age of 25. And that's debatable too, but I do have like a cognitive science background as well, with looking at with courses in cognitive science and neuroscience as well, and neurology and stuff like that, because I'm a fucking nerd. But yeah, there's just so many things that we just like I don't know. And another story I can tell you that was told to me the other day, and it was someone that is, and this is probably going to be very controversial, but there was in a bathhouse in Ottawa. I didn't even know they had bathhouses, whatever. And even in that in itself is like, whatever, like who goes to those? But like he had a friend that's gay, and I've met him multiple times, and he's a great guy, and he's married, and I've met his husband, and we've gone to restaurants together. We've stayed in Airbnbs together for like bodybuilding competitions and stuff like that. And a really nice couple. And so I wasn't coming at this but I was trying to come at this with a non-biased lens. And so he was telling me that one of the partners went to a bathhouse the weekend before, and there was a guy there, and I guess he was saying something about like homosexuals or the trans community or something like that. And then like this other man like took it, as a point to educate this guy, and was like, actually, you know what I mean? I'm married and I'm gay and all of this stuff. And I'm like, oh my God. In my head, I'm like, there's so many things to this that like first of all, and then they were talking and stuff like that. But I'm like because I like my background again with the Patricia, like those guys are fucking warriors. They're warriors, right? These are guys that have seen literal battle. They are seasoned veterans or still serving like fucking warriors, like killed people, all of this stuff. Like, and they have their own opinions of things, right? Like not all, but there are people that like they're totally fine, obviously, and they literally went to war to protect and defend people because they were getting killed because of being homosexual, or because of being a woman or a female child that couldn't go to school and stuff like that. So a lot of people deployed to help people that they thought were being oppressed, and were being oppressed by certain groups because of extremist views. So they're not extreme in their views, but they're guys that like they would be really fucking uncomfortable if they were like half naked in a bathroom with a guy that they didn't, you know what I mean? With and then they found out the guy was gay. Like they would be really uncomfortable with that, because it's not informed consent, and they're totally fine with it in the society. But it's just like when they're in a safe space too, when men are in a safe space too, things, I don't know. And this is just like, I was just like, man, like I actually know guys like, and it's not right, but that would probably punch this guy out. And not in Canada, I'm talking about in other countries. Clearly, like, let me reiterate, in Canada, we're very tolerant, and in the US, we're very tolerant of that. But in other countries, because I've been all over the friggin' world, like that, it's a completely fucking different story. Like even in the streets, even if you look like a little bit more masculine as a woman, you're getting people that will shame you in public for these things, right? And so it's not the same in other areas. And so he could get away with doing that stuff in Canada because we're a lot more accepting of it, even our alpha males, because they're not crazy. They can handle their emotions and stuff like that. And despite what people think, but there's so many areas that I know, I'm like, man, you are fucking lucky, and you would not dare do that in these countries. So like, again, this is what I mean. Like people think, and they brag about this. Oh yeah, I educated this one guy at a bathhouse. And I'm like, first of all, why are you in a bathhouse? Anyway, whatever. And I don't know. I don't even know where I was going with that. I'm just gonna let this play.
It isn't.
No offense, but also be aware of your surroundings, I guess, is what I want to get to. My point to that.
All men's retreat, but I have heard that some women have been there before. But
interesting.
I mean, yeah,
but James O'Keefe came as he was actually legitimately invited.
Yeah, absolutely. He admitted it.
Oh my God, yeah.
And he even said that, on my resume.
Oh my God, yeah. Over macho. I should probably take that video down, but I had a troll that because I pissed him off because because we were having a debate about taxes. Like he's the type that I would assume is the super alpha and not the good kind. You know what I mean? Like the kind that could be like a loose cannon, that would, lose it on just like a nothing event and turn it into a big event for no reason. Especially when they get drunk. There's guys that when they get drunk or whatever, they get, oh my God, they're not nice drunks. I'm more of a clumsy drunk.
Resignation call. It's all in the documentary. It's all laid out where, yeah, he admits it. He said, I went to this bohemian club, meaning the Bohemian Grove, and it's upset people. And he at that point he said it's upset people, and I want to take your temperature, see how you're feeling, see how you're doing. And that was the
my brother. I would say that he's definitely like an alpha male, like masculine. I don't know if but I don't even know if I would call him an alpha male because he doesn't scream, he doesn't yell, he doesn't fight, he doesn't drink, he doesn't smoke, he doesn't do drugs. He has 4 kids. He's been with the same woman his entire life. So again, he's like 6 years older than me, but he's been with the same woman for like 26 years and same home and all that stuff. And very smart. And he's always into the sports and stuff too. And he's got his kids into the sports and in other recreational stuff. But he would never be someone like I've never seen him yet lose his cool, like ever, like even as a kid, And so I see that more like someone that could be calm, cool, and collected, even though there's like chaos going around and stuff like that. Like I see that as alpha. So like the Jordan Peterson types too, Dr. Jordan Peterson. I mean, I need to respect him by saying Dr. Jordan Peterson because he earned that friggin' title. I see him like more as an alpha male too, because he looks like he would not just like go in, just friggin' hands swinging in a friggin' situation, which is the opposite of what you should be doing in the situation.
Point in time where, I revealed myself and said, like, James, I was a Pfizer whistleblower in 2021 through 2022. I worked with your team.
Yeah.
Like, you had the opportunity to tell my huge story and you didn't. And, I just stood up for myself during that call. And then ever since I resigned, because I was forced to resign because I told James I don't trust you anymore for going to Bohemian.
Yeah. Oh.
I worked on this entire documentary, Project Whistleblower, for like 7.5, 8 months. Put it together and released it to the public for free as a public service because I don't need to charge people for this. I feel like it's people's right to know the truth. And people have a right to know that James went to Bohemian Grove. I mean,
yeah.
If I was going to keep that to myself for the rest of my life, then I'm, aiding the beast in a sense, and I mean,
this is really difficult, what I'm about to say, and I've thought long and hard about this, but I've been doing this for 20 years, and I think every man has his breaking point. Just the number of attacks, the number of betrayals, federal government.
Name one.
Now during surveillance.
Name one. He says like all these attacks and like no proof.
FBI and IRS.
I've invited him to chat too, by the way, and we did chat a little bit back and forth on Instagram, and there's no follow up, but because I don't care if you're controlled opposition or not. If you're willing to speak with someone, like maybe there might be like a seed that could be planted to sway you in your thought process, possibly to convince others maybe within your network at the higher levels to fucking stop what they're doing, please.
Just constant state attorneys general lawsuits. I have to raise millions of dollars and I just don't think I can take it anymore. And it's just too much for one man to bear. And now
that's a good one.
Looks like the company I founded is suing me. That might go to trial. Just constant litigation.
What company's suing you?
I just don't think I can take it anymore. And the attacks come from all directions with unrelenting force.
Thank you for that. Yeah. Well, if he did it as a journalist,
that was sarcasm, because then at the end of that he says, just kidding, I'm never going to stop, whatever. Like
undercover type of thing, then you'd think that he'd be talking about it and say, hey guys, I went to Bohemian Grove undercover and here's what I learned. Here's what I discovered. But no, he's been private about it. and you called him out.
He's actually even elaborated on the fact that, I mean, people that he knows, he's known for years, have been there, and it was rumored / it's basically confirmed at this point that he was going to get like business funding and receive money from this Bohemian Club. And so if you're going for those reasons versus going to investigate it, you know, I mean, that is totally like a
suspect.
huge red flag. You know,
Yeah.
considering the fact, you know, in Deanna, I feel like you would agree, considering the fact that James O'Keefe is considered like a king of investigative journalism and a king of sting operations himself.
Right.
You know,
Right. Exactly.
They invited this guy to.
Okay, so compelling, just very interesting stuff that he might have went to come to Bohemian Grove. It seems to be that person was working with him. Just Integrity was the name. So now I want to get into more with this because like I can't not discuss Andrew Schultz calling out Ben Shapiro, questioning his loyalty because he's a very popular podcaster. I don't really watch or anything like that unless things get controversial, because usually he's just very vanilla, just like Don Lemon and like, oh my God. And Don Lemon and Elon Musk had a friggin' interview together. It was like, I didn't even finish watching it. It was painful to watch. It was honestly painful to watch. It was so ridiculous. Oh my God. I just didn't give a shit. I couldn't give a shit less about, oh my God. I just
have an opinion on your platform that is not pro a country that is not ours.
Yeah.
Wait a minute.
There is an Overton window at the Daily Wire. Obviously, there was a non-meeting of the minds. That's pretty much all I can say on this.
Crazy. I wish.
So is the Daily Wire an American media platform or is it an Israeli media platform? I'm just asking.
This guy's cooking.
But you can't criticize Israel as a country. That's just another country, unless you're saying, and you're clearly admitting, that the Daily Wire is an arm of the Israeli, I guess, media or propaganda machine. Is that? Oof. Are you manipulating the right-wing conservatives in America and selling them country western movies and putting on your little cow?
Wow. What's going on, folks? So Andrew Schultz on one of the biggest comedy podcasts in the world asked if Ben Shapiro is loyal to America or Israel, which is actually breaking one of the anti-Semitism speech laws. So, of course, we have to condemn his hatred for asking that question. But I'm going to play those clips because Andrew Schultz has one of the biggest podcasts in the world.
Yeah.
They're usually not covering topics like this. And it seems like Daily Wire took such a huge misstep that even huge comedy podcasts are talking about how ridiculous and fake they are. And it's worth discussing. Since everybody's figuring this stuff out, we might as well keep riding with it. I'm passionate about it. I know a lot about it since I've been talking about it for 6 years. And Andrew makes some very interesting points that I think you guys are going to want to see. This video is going viral on Twitter. So that's what it's about today. And also after that, we're going to look at Ben Shapiro accusing others of blood libel, which is also one of the anti-Semitism speech laws. If you say that Israel did anything deliberately, now you're not just wrong, it's blood libel, which is being passed through American legislation as one of the anti-Semitism speech laws. It all connects. Hope you stay tuned and enjoy.
Oh my God.
God bless you guys. Dreamer podcast starts now. Give me.
So the level of hypocrisy would be because Dr. Jordan Peterson was even in cabinet talking about Bill C. Was it 16 or 18? 18, like in 2016. And all these other censorship bills. Was it C11, C18? Anyway, it was the censorship friggin' bills. And in 2016, he was talking about that in cabinet. And so if he was to talk about anything, like if he's on the same page as Ben Shapiro with this for these censorship laws and these hate speech laws and stuff like that, then he's then he's yet again like another hypocrite, because that's a very large scale. He is someone that's been like fighting this for years now, and so you can't. It's not rules for thee and not for me.
Thumbs up in the comments if the sound audio is good.
It's the Dream Rare Podcast. Welcome to the show. The way to get the news at the desk or on the road. Let's go. God is great and success in our control. The world is crazy, but we get better from obstacles. Yeah.
What's going on Facebook? What's going on YouTube? What's going on Rumble? Appreciate you guys so much. Thanks for being here. And the saga just keeps getting more interesting, so I want to talk about it. From people accusing others of blood libel, that keeps happening more and more, to mainstream podcasts having these conversations. it's worth talking about. I mean, it's like one of the biggest stories in the world. And I saw this clip and was like, wow, I can't believe Andrew Schultz went there. Especially I saw Andrew Schultz was really hard on Kanye early on. I'm not talking about after the Alex Jones interview. I'm talking about like way before. Andrew was one of the loudest people against what he was saying, which is fine. I mean, everybody's entitled to
That's
their own
probably the last time I heard of him.
opinion. It's what it is. But I guess I just have to say I didn't expect this out of him. I didn't know that he would say stuff like this, because what Andrew doesn't know is later in his podcast, they're talking about like, you know, there is anti-Semitism out there. It's like technically what you said is anti-Semitic, not according to me, but according to the speech laws that the American government is passing. Like, you're not allowed to say what Andrew Schultz just said because you're accusing Ben of having loyalty to another country, which is one of the laws. So it's important for people to learn these hate speech laws. But let's watch the clip. We'll talk about that later.
But he's basically like, there's a window of ideas we accept.
Yes.
And we accept ideas between this, I guess this is, if I get window, you're looking like this. So we accept ideas between here and here. And anything outside of that window, well, you're fireable. That's censorship.
So he must have seen the clip of Ben Shapiro talking about his Overton window, and everybody's noticing what a hypocrite that Ben is. It's not just because he runs a platform, but his whole career, he's been yelling at other platforms. Like when New York Times doesn't platform a conservative, he goes, you know, you should be doing that you're censoring them. Like and then everybody figures out that he's the exact same way. But if you listen further, which I'm going to play the clips, Andrew explains what he's thinking.
But he's acting as if this is like a justified reason for firing people when you built your identity and platform off of no censorship and freedom of speech and facts don't care about your feelings and all this shit.
It's also funny that window happens to end where his belief.
I like that guy at the end. He's like, it's funny that Overton window, it ends where your beliefs end, which is totally
where your beliefs start is what he meant to say.
True. But it just keeps getting better or more hateful, depending how you see it. I don't know. I condemn the hate speech or whatever, even though what they're saying is hilarious. But anyway.
I am
interesting.
You would say that.
Not being pro-Israel, that's where the window ends. That's also your specific personal belief.
What?
So I just don't see.
You can't have an opinion on your platform that is not pro a country that is not ours?
Yeah.
So Andrew starts putting the pieces together. He's like, you can't have an opinion that goes too far on a country that's not our country. What he says next is breaking one of the anti-Semitism speech laws. But, you know, he's like, so who are you working for? Which, of course, is just bigotry and hate and discrimination. And I'm just joking. I mean, that's what they would say. But here's what Andrew says.
It's crazy. I wish.
So is the Daily Wire an American media platform or is it an Israeli media platform? I'm just asking.
This guy's cooking.
I'm just asking. If the rule is.
That one guy goes, he's cooking, and he's like, I'm just saying, like, he's like, is it an American platform or an Israeli platform? If that's what your Overton window is. But what Andrew doesn't realize is he broke one of the anti-Semitism hate speech laws. You're not allowed to accuse any.
Like he's mainstream media. Like I would classify him as. So him saying that's actually pretty wild and good. It's good for him because even J.K. Rowland, she's like fighting like the new Scotland like censorship laws and stuff like that. They're absolutely ridiculous. And again, it's based on subjective reality, which is so annoying. It's so dangerous. I will reiterate. In government, in business, in politics, in any of that, like in teaching, subjective reality does not trump measurable, observable, repeatable data.
Jewish citizen in America being more loyal to Israel. Even if Ben constantly tells you how loyal he is to Israel, it's still hate speech to say that. And Ben Shapiro seems to agree with the hate speech laws because he tweets them out on his Twitter sometimes, and he plays along to them like the blood libel one, which we'll get into later. But, you know, Andrew's got some pretty big balls to say that. I never thought he would be the one to say it to his millions of followers.
Actually, I think people on this channel would like this. So when I was a G3 operations officer for the brigade here in Ontario, like for like managing 17 reserve units, so I got the 17 in there, people like that. But it was 33 brigade, which is the headquarters. That's where I was working out of. And so you got the 33 in there. So I'm looking at my flag. I have like the half Canadian flag, half 33 brigade flag that I'm looking at right now. That's folded up in a frame.
Followers, but it's got to be one of the biggest podcasts in the world. outside of even politics, because it's not always super political. And he's out here questioning, like, which country is this media organization serving if that's your Overton window? Which, once again, is an interesting question to have, which is why he's saying it. And I don't know if they think that censorship and accusing everybody of blood libel, like, I don't know if they think that that's going to make people stop questioning these things, because it seems like the further Ben leans into insanity and the more exaggerations that happen, the more people want to talk about this stuff. So I think the Daily Wire strategy is backfiring tremendously.
Oh my God, yeah.
We'll talk about that in a second. Let's keep watching.
As if they would. This is what I mean. Like, you're showing your cards when Ben Shapiro gets chosen over Candace Owens. I mean, come on. She's been right about the majority, like about so many things, and they just can't handle the fact that, you know.
I'm just saying, if the rule
Ben
is
Shapiro is not Daily Wire, it was Candace Owens, and like, now that they did this to her, like Daily Wire is, like, I could see it in the next few months. I can see it just like being completely irrelevant, because I don't watch it anymore. I was only watching it for Candace for the past year.
you cannot be critical, because he has no problem being very critical of America.
Yep.
He's critical of the left in America. Left is half the country. You have no problem eviscerating half of
That's
the
the
country.
current party in power.
But you can't criticize Israel as a country. That's just
So,
Weird.
you know, they're trying to figure it out. They're like, you have no problem criticizing this. Why is that your line? And he once again breaks one of the hate speech laws by being like, what is this media organization? You know, like what purpose are you serving if that's it? And I'm not going to lie. He kind of goes in here. Like, I did not expect it from Andrew Schultz. I've not been a fan. I'm still not a fan, to be honest. But let's just say I didn't expect him to be saying this stuff, because he's kind of saying something similar, not exactly identical or anything, but I've always joked around how conservatives just wear cowboy hats and scam like their base. Like, Republicans are like, howdy, y'all. And then they like give money to the pharmaceutical industry. And he kind of hints that with Ben. He's like, are you just pretending to be a cowboy to scam a bunch of religious right wingers? And it's like, pretty much, yeah, that's what they've been doing for a long time. It's just everyone says I'm hateful when I say it, but let's listen to Andrew say it, and then we can all come together and say he's being hateful. I'm just kidding, but here's the clip.
unless you're saying, and you're clearly admitting, that the Daily Wire is an arm of the Israeli, I guess, media or propaganda machine. Is that? Oof. Are you manipulating the religious right in America?
All right, I got to play the last clip because he goes off. He's like, Ben, are you just pretending? Which, of course, this is hate speech. It's just unadulterated, pure anti-Semitism. It's not comedy at all. But let's listen to the clip.
Are you manipulating the right-wing conservatives in America and selling them country western movies and putting on your little cowboy hat and fake moving to Nashville so that you could take all their money and then in the process restricting free speech, one of the core tenets of the American identity? Ben.
Oof. Benjamin.
What is happening? There's trouble in paradise.
Sheesh. I mean, I'm not gonna lie, the kid's cooking right there. He's
Yeah.
like, are you just fake moving to? And I'm not saying Ben really fake moved to Nashville. Maybe I don't care. I don't look into that stuff. But it's like, are you manipulating the religious right with these country movies just to lie to them? And it's like, yeah, that's totally what's happening.
Yeah.
He mentions later in that
He's gonna wear
podcast. I listened to like a
cowboy hats.
20-minute clip. It was really good, actually.
You know, he's gonna pretend that he like knows how to like use a friggin' rope, a lasso. Come on.
He was mentioning that what
It's
makes
better-
Ben a hypocrite.
It's better to start now if he's actually genuinely doing this to like live more off the land and stuff like that, and like for his family, like legit. That I understand that he should be doing that, but if it's just like more psyops propaganda, like fake disingenuous fucking bullshit, then like no, thank you.
Is the fact that when New York Times wouldn't publish certain right-wing
But if it's legitimate, I would literally change my opinion of you and start watching you. You know, if you were more genuine.
conversations, Ben was attacking them, even though
But you have to condemn genocide. Like I feel like that's an obvious one. You have to condemn all the genocide that you've been promoting and enabling.
they're a platform or they're a publisher, not a platform. Ben was still saying, like, why are you doing that? Allow these right-wing narratives to come out in New York Times. But New York Times said, we don't have to, we don't want to. So the point is, the hypocrisy is, if you're going to pressure all these other media organizations and say you should show the counter narrative to what you're saying, Ben's not allowing that. Also in this podcast, it was really interesting, actually. They were speculating that possibly the Daily Wire and Ben, Candace is like this unmovable force that she's just getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And they were speculating, which I think can be very true. I'm not sure. But you have Ben Shapiro saying this stuff about the Israel war. You have Candace Owens bringing on people like Norman Finkelstein, who Ben Shapiro would never debate, who provides the counter perspective as a Jewish person who's supportive of Gaza. And it's like Candace was getting more popular than Ben. And also it's like, when you listen to Candace, listen to Ben. It's not to say Ben does nothing better than Candace. He is a talented guy, sort of, I guess, in certain topics. But if you listen to,
I don't know. I don't find him as impressive as people that I talk to, even on a regular basis. Well, I mean, I don't talk to a lot of people, and people within my network are very academic, even though like either the vegan types or the yogi types or the redneck types or the hood types. Or whatever.
The 20 episodes of
they're super smart.
Ben talk about this stuff and 20 episodes of Candace, I think the Daily Wire audience was starting to lean towards
so Fauci and Shapiro and all these people. Like, I think that because in their networks, within their groups, in their Ivy League school, like areas, like there's a lot more brainwashing and misinformation pushed at those levels now, especially over the last few decades. And it would actually do them more of a service if they actually talked to people in areas where they think that they're like more like they're better than. Fauci tried that in the projects and he got spanked by a guy that looked like he works like friggin' 16 hours a friggin' day. Oh my God. But yeah, like that, like he was talking to him and he made him look embarrassing. And Fauci's supposed to be some kind of an academic and he doesn't look or sound like one. And Bill Gates is most definitely not an academic. And he's not a scientist. I don't know why he says that. Like, are we the scientists? Like, no, you're not. No, next question. Yeah, they should be talking to their help more. It'd be interesting if elected officials and experts and stuff like that, if they actually, like the people that are their security details or their drivers or other people within that, like their help industry, it would probably benefit them to actually talk to them a little bit more. But a lot of them don't even like the rules are you can't be close, can't talk to them, can't just be distracting, can't be in the way. Okay.
Candace more
You're
because
lost,
what
not
she
mine.
was saying seemed a little more honest and made a little more sense. And I think it's like a brand decision, like we can't let the vibe of Daily Wire turn into this when the most important topic to us is this. We're just going to call it anti-Semitic if you say that that's our most important topic, even though it is our most important topic. You're not allowed to talk about it. And it's like, it's like a combination of like, yeah, she crossed certain lines, but also she was making Ben look stupid, So it's like you can't have someone countering Ben's narrative and looking smarter and more reasonable. Like, just get rid of her.
Yeah.
But then it's like you getting rid of her is no different than New York Times not platforming Josh Hawley or whoever that Ben was crying about when they wouldn't publish the thing. It's like that's what they're doing. The MSNBC doesn't want to hire Ronna Romney McDaniel because they got a bunch of psycho left-wingers following them who doesn't want to.
You know what? And I don't like saying this, but there are people, like a small group of people of various different skin colors, but like, that are super fucking racist and Candace Owens and sexist too, and sexist, especially like the boys only club. And so the fact that Candace Owens is, oh my God, there's just so many strikes against her for these groups, right? Being black, being a woman, being wildly intelligent and beautiful and a mother and more conservative and more like Christian values. Like these are all strikes against her, like within certain groups, like even me within these groups, like I hated just by virtue of my biological sex. I'm sorry. Like I can't change that despite
conservative.
The woke.
I'm not saying that's right.
I can't change that. And
right, but it's like, Ben, like, what is your line? Just be honest about your line. Like, is your line Israel? I think it is. Is it Jewish stuff? Sure. If it is, just say it is. Don't say it's hate speech and anti-Semitic to suggest that that's happening. And I want to show you this real quick because one of the anti-Semitism speech laws says that you can't talk about traditional blood libel, which I wasn't even aware of what that is because it's not something that was ever brought to my attention in the first 30-something years of my life. Yeah. But apparently in the hate speech law that they're passing through government, that's on the State Department website, that Republicans, not just Democrats, but mostly Republicans, your sellout scammers, putting on cowboy hats, lying to you, selling out your Constitution, they're passing.
And this was not me trying to be offensive, but when I was saying fake conservatives, like when I've said this for the last few years, I'm trying not, like, I don't mean to offend people that are hard workers. Like even within my family and friend group, like there are a lot of hard workers, like men, you know, that do really hard friggin' jobs. And they're distracted and busy doing these fucking hard jobs that are necessary. Like there's electrical guys, like probably like 24 hours nonstop now in freezing cold weather in the blizzards all over Canada, working nonstop because there's a lot of power outages. So they're busy helping people and saving lives and stuff like that. And they're getting fucked over by losers like Ben Shapiro.
This one hate speech law that says like you can't do blood libel. Example is saying Jews killed Jesus. So it's like, why is our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ being mentioned as a hate speech law? Like you're not allowed to say it that way. You know, you're not allowed to read the Bible that way, or now it's hate speech. And it's like, I just find it odd that Ben Shapiro and other people just keep tweeting out blood libel, blood libel, blood libel. And they're saying if you say that Israel's purposely doing anything, that's now blood libel. Yeah. It's not just Candace Owens liking a tweet, which was blood libel. Now it's like you disagreeing with Israel or saying that their government could possibly deliberately do anything bad ever. You just have to say they're the greatest, most moral military ever, or else that's blood libel. Let me show you. So a chef who had 7 of his aid workers killed by Israel's airstrike said they were targeted deliberately. This guy just had 7 of his workers murdered, essentially. Ben Shapiro writes, World Central Kitchen does good work, but this is a blood libel, unsupportable by logic or evidence. Also, Andres has been accusing Israel of targeting civilians, blah, blah, blah. Crystal Ball said that they were targeting people purposely. And this guy, John Podhoretz, said, you need to stop blood libeling Jews, you repellent liar. So, you know.
This is what they're insane. This guy here, literally insane. And is he Republican? Is he conservative? Like he's a Canadian conservative? You know, I mean, doesn't need to do more to protect aid workers? Yeah, you fucking do. And it needs to stop intentionally targeting them for such. Yeah, we all agree with that. That's not being, and calling them a repellent liar. You're a repellent liar. That's what, like, oh my God, like weak men create weak societies. It's just, oh my God.
Anybody who questions Israel on this topic is blood libeling them. If
John Podhoretz,
they did it purposely. I'll show you another one real quick, and then I'll show you the hate speech laws that are being passed through government. He also called Chef Jose Andres, you know, cursing at him, saying disgusting blood libel for saying that Israel did it deliberately.
There's a dual citizen Canadian-American veteran that died, one of those aid workers. And we got a little pussy fucking beta soy boy here. Like, oh my God. You just got to send so much love to these people, honestly, like, because like they're so hurt and disgusting. You know, and you can't match them at that level because it will never be at that level. You know, they'll just beat you with experience. So that's why I'm saying we have to come at this with healing and love and peace. Something that they don't know. They're not familiar with it. They don't know how to play in that field. It's literally that field.
And then if you look on the State Department website, also Meghan McCain's husband said that, you know, Candace got fired for blood libel. He was saying that to Dave Smith. So this is just going around Twitter. Everyone, blood libel, blood libel. Okay, that's one of the speech laws, as I'm going to show. You see that right there. It says using the symbols associated with classic anti-Semitism, claims of Jews killing Jesus, or blood libel to characterize Israel. So it's like, you know, Candace got fired for crossing one of the hate speech laws. She lied.
So there's definitely groups like the Bohemian Grove, like with the Rothschilds and the Rockefellers. I've totally called these people out, and I've even saying like people are trying to say that this is like based on like a specific religious group that's doing this, and I'm trying to say that there are extremists, people that are unwell, that have been entitled and privileged their whole lives and being groomed into being like not held accountable for any of their actions, and even apparently like, so I was talking to this guy where like his father was like a security detail with like the RCMP or whatever like that for Pierre Elliott Trudeau. And when Justin Trudeau was like 7 years old, he like apparently like threw his jacket on the ground, like in like the mud or whatever like that. And like he went to like a friggin' head, like RCMP guys, like you fucking pick, like not fudging, but he's like, you pick it up or whatever. And anyway, it was like a really rude thing. And like, that's what you think of like your head of like RCMP, like your security detail. Like, are you as a 7-year-old? And it's like, oh my God. Like, and so yeah, so that again, like even with that right there, like just like I believe it's elitists that have not been accountable for perversions and the drug and human trafficking stuff and all that other stuff. And it's been incestuous, and there's been perversions and again, the weird sexual fetish stuff that's turned into fucking Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde stuff. But there's also, again, people at the Bohemian Grove that are from other countries as well. And so there's still people like China, for example, that where there's military bases and there's and they have like now like ships and stuff like that, like on the like in the sea, and they most definitely are controlling a lot of the airspace as well. Despite what people think, they do have a lot of crafts in like in the within the dome area, but doing things right, not just surveillance and stuff like that, but you know, has the capability to do other things, possibly with lasers as well. And so China does have a lot of reach in countries, not just economically, but also they have a lot of infrastructure. There's mines as well. Like they've bought up even more lithium mines within Canada just in the last couple of years. So again, we're getting colonized by people that are not white as well. And then there's people that have influence in the Middle East, like very, very rich people, princes. And they're also influencing from like, so the people that own the oil industries, I would say. And but they're exploiting people that are white skinned mostly. You're not wrong with that in the first world countries or the what we're calling the first world countries. But they also have their puppets that are like in India, like Modi. He's a fucking puppet too, and he's not white, you know, and he has like a lot of reach, and he has like he's influencing a huge population, and lying about moon landings and stuff too. Like that guy is not white. Xi Jinping is not white. Anyway, but there are, yeah. Anyway, I'll just leave it at that. It's just a fucking mess. I would say though, it's like people that own like not only the oil industries, but like the rock, like BlackRock and Vanguard and Lockheed Martin, JP Morgan, Aladdin.
Liked a tweet. She didn't even say it. They're not saying that Candace did blood libel. I'm sure they built someone.
At Bohemian Grove, like people are not wrong. I think it's like mostly white still, the people that go, and that's where a lot of the scripts are assigned, and that's why there's a lot of Hollywood celebrities and stuff like that as well that go. And CIA, by the way, are the ones that have created the biggest bestsellers movies out there. Like they were working with Periscope Films, Paramount, with fucking Disney, with Sony, with Warner Brothers. Not everyone in the CIA knows that. In fact, most people don't. And I call myself a whistleblower, but even the people that I worked with on the higher level stuff, these are people legitimately that did not know and still do not know likely what's going on or the reality of the world. And they're people that are refusing to look at it because they're like, oh shit, that would mean that I was wrong. Who the fuck cares? That's besides the point. This is that you're letting ego get in the way. Like, don't care about like, if you were wrong, you have to care about like the so what about that.
Yeah, but they're saying she liked the tweet of somebody doing blood libel, so that's like
Oprah, a woman and black, and she's heavily involved in the human trafficking, drug trafficking stuff. And I've even showed pictures recently of like who she's been involved with, people that are actually in jail for human trafficking, child porn rings and stuff like that. And yeah, it's the rabbit hole goes fucking deep. She was big in that, heavily involved in that. And there's people that are like pretending to be Jewish as well, and they in their brain they're not white skinned, so they're like, I'm like, what the fuck? Like if you're from Europe and you're white skinned, then you're Caucasian. Like what the fuck are you talking about? But yeah, you're also Jewish. That's a religion.
The reason you got fired, says Meghan McCain's husband or whatever. And then you have people that are just saying like 7 aid workers died, right? I'm not an expert. I'm not in Gaza. I can't tell you exactly what happened. I'm not going to take a huge stance because I don't really know. But let's just put it this way. From all the research that I've done.
And even with the film industry, like for decades, it was white men that were in the lead roles and major roles and major awards. And everyone else had the underlying roles, and even throughout history too. So like, it has been whitewashed, I think, but like white male washed. So all of these philosophers and mathematicians and astronomers and stuff like that they talk about from the past, why are they all white men? All of them. You're really going to tell me that there was no women or there was no people from other skin colors that were also creating these advanced technologies and innovations and stuff like that. When I talk to people, oh my God, I just can't, like, I don't buy that either. That's why I think a lot of that's bullshit. And again, it's more of like the grooming and putting us in a hierarchy and for the control too. So it's like not only about like dividing us by skin color, but also by sexes. And that's why even within the King James version of the Bible, which I also believe is a bit of a psyops a little bit, like no offense, there's good lessons to learn, but there's still like that hierarchy, the lords, like like men and women being seen like you know, there's like subservience in that. And again, this is to like, I don't know, I think it's for control.
And it seems like Israel is apologizing. It seems like that aid truck was marked for aid truck. Like they were doing everything right to show like,
and it's all trauma-based stuff, you know, and sexual perversions, and then like resisting temptation, and but like hyper sexualizing society at the same time and removing us further from our creator, like our God, our creator. And even Candace, I think she said Christ is king. And so for me, like if I was just like, maybe I'm naive in this, but like if I was to like especially around like the holidays, I would look at that as something that's like, oh, that's a nice thing. You know what I mean? Christ is king. So for me, because I correlate Christ as like the creator possibly, or God, and just like people's different interpretations of that or what they call it is just different. There's different translations, but and then people are taking offense to that, like as if by her saying that and being proud of that, they were saying that was being even like anti-Semitic. And I'm like, you're friggin' reaching. You're reaching. I don't know.
We're just humanitarians. Please don't kill us.
Because like even with that, with kings and lords and stuff like that, this is also part of like the controlling messaging and the hierarchy and stuff like that as well. So for her, it's like Christ is king. There's no one above Christ or God or Allah or Yeshua or whoever you want to call the creator. I don't know. Or there could be even creators. I don't know, but they're higher level beings. And I think they're coming more from a loving, caring, compassionate, joyful place. And I think, I don't know, I think they're kind of hurting with how things are unfolding right now. Tangent. Oh my God.
And they still got killed. So it seems hard, and I don't want to commit blood libel, so Ben Shapiro will smear me for the rest of my life, but it seems hard for me to believe that was like a huge mistake. It could have been, but like to suggest that it wasn't is now blood libel. I want to show a tweet from Cernovich because I thought it was actually pretty honest. And Jeremy Boring said that Cernovich is not anti-Semitic. He's one of the only people apparently that's not anti-Semitic. So you can read this without being accused by Daily Wire being anti-Semitic or whatever. But Cernovich said, there are people within Netanyahu's political faction who want Gazans to starve. You're an idiot if you don't know this, or you know it and you're lying. But that doesn't work anymore. You can't shut down debate with false accusations, put on big boy pants and deal with reality. I'm not saying he was subtweeting Shapiro, but it sounds like he's talking about Shapiro and many others who are just saying that it's blood libel to suggest that they would ever do that. And here's my thing. I listen to everybody, the left, the right. I don't listen to people with masks on because I can't hear them. They're like, are you saying free Palestine? I can't hear you with the medical mask on. Like if you can't protest without a medical mask, it's hard to hear you. So I don't listen to you. But, everyone else, I'm hearing what they're saying if they're not wearing a medical mask on their face, and I could like make out the words. And listening to not everybody, because there's people on both sides that say stuff, but listening to a lot of these pro-Israel Zionists, like to me it sounds like they're justifying like this is Hamas, that's Hamas, the kids are Hamas, the citizens are Hamas, they're all Hamas, you're Hamas if you disagree. And once they label you Hamas, they pretty much, in my opinion, label you for execution. It's like they want to kill Hamas. Understandable. They want to kill the citizens and the kids who they think are pro-Hamas because of a 2004 election. Like they've said that on television. Not everybody, but there are Zionists that have been on television that say, well, if you don't want to be considered Hamas, you shouldn't have voted for them. It's like the election was like over 15 years ago and these kids are like 19, like they're responsible. So on one hand, people like Ben Shapiro will say that it's blood libel to suggest that Israel's doing anything deliberately. On another hand, people like Ben Shapiro will constantly justify the killing of civilians, saying that they're helping Hamas or they're near Hamas.
The aid workers, these are people of service, and they were in Gaza because they were courageous as fuck, and they knew they were on the front lines, and they knew that people were getting murdered, but they were like, you know what, women and children and elderly. And so this guy that is a veteran that served in the Canadian military. He was a dual American Canadian citizen that was targeted by the IDF, by people that were committing war crimes. Why does Ben Shapiro not care about that? This is what I mean. He's from America. Doesn't he support the American military? Does he not anymore? No? Only the ones that are bombing kids, I guess?
Hamas, or they're human shields for Hamas, or they voted for Hamas, or if you even go to Gaza and do anything for anybody
families.
in Gaza,
that guy had kids, Ben. Why, and you're justifying this and saying that anyone that discusses it is repellent liar or an anti-Semite, a Semite, when Palestinians are Semites as well? So by you not talking about that, that makes you an anti-Semite, I guess.
Or Hamas. So it's not that hard to think that they might have just purposely killed those people, because it's like, if you go anywhere near those people, you're Hamas. They even call people in America Hamas. It's like, if you don't agree with Ben Shapiro, you're Hamas. So once they label you Hamas and you know that they want to kill Hamas, why is it that crazy to think that they would purposely do that when they don't like the people there and they have agendas to, get rid of an organization that seems spread out and all over the place? So I'm not saying it was purposely done, but I mean, it's insane to call it blood libel when people suggest, but in a weird way, I mean, this sucks that this is all happening. Obviously it's sad, and just division and people arguing, it sucks, but it's everything's coming to light. People are showing you who they are. They're showing you that they either support the speech laws or they're regurgitating the speech laws. And it's becoming so obvious that even people that like Andrew Schultz that don't even, weigh in on this stuff, he was calling Kanye West anti-Semitic 1,000 times. It's Andrew Schultz, call anybody who you want. Sure, call him anti-Semitic, but you're going to get called anti-Semitic eventually because you just broke one of the anti-Semitism speech laws. Technically, they could say blood libel. They could say you're accusing Ben Shapiro of being loyal to Israel, and you're not allowed to say that Ben Shapiro is loyal to Israel, even though everything he does proves that he is, but you're not allowed to say it.
Okay. I do want to present, I'm already really long in this, but the groundbreaking information I wanted to show you, I wanted to save it for last. Actually, before I do that, IDF source reveals killing 20 civilians for every low-level target is acceptable. This was Kim Iverson. I haven't watched this yet, but
Palestine. And of course it's on the rise. Of course it's on the rise. Some of it's healthy skepticism. Some of it is just anger. And that anger manifesting in terrible ways. And it could manifest to a point of really horrific anti-Semitism, which maybe is Israel's goal, because they are trying to build a nation that is majority Jew. And right now, if they were to force to be a one state and giving all the Palestinian citizenship, it would be 50-50. They would lose their Jewish character. They would no longer be a Jewish nation. But if you can create anti-Semitism around the world and get Jews to want to flee to the safe place that you've created for them, and you dominate the region, you flood it in with population, then you end up with the Jewish nation, even if you give all the Palestinians citizenship. If you have 80% Jews and 20% Palestinians, then there's no real threat to the Jewish character of your nation. Same thing that's like the Christian character of the United States. And that could be the goal. Is that the goal? Again, healthy skepticism, healthy questioning, ask the questions. Is that what Israel's trying to do? Are they trying to fearmonger people and to where they run off and help build the state of Israel as they've they're absolutely hell-bent on building the state of Israel. They've made that clear, and they've somehow gotten our government to help in that by giving them endless amounts of money year after year, not only in wartime, but in peacetime as well, claiming to constantly be in wartime. American politicians can't speak out against Israel. You can't even be in media and speak out against Israel. I mean, they've basically coerced us somehow, one way or the other, into building a nation for them. Not our nation, but their nation. I just want to play this clip for you. This is Andrew Schultz. He's a comedian, popular comedian. He called out Ben Shapiro, and he's kind of reiterating also what I'm saying here to you. Check.
Let's fast forward this a little bit.
We even need to be what's the point of being a member of NATO? The point is, if you then end up invaded, you end up at war, that these other countries would join in and help defend you and your borders, right? Okay. So yeah, that's Ukraine right now. Why would they need to join NATO in the future when the war is over? Are they worried that they're going to be invaded by Russia again after this war is? When will this war end? This war isn't going to end because there's no way that Ukraine is going to be able to kick Russia out of the entire territory of Ukraine, of what Ukraine believes is Ukraine, what the West believes is Ukraine. There's no way they're going to kick Russia out. So what they're going to do is Russia's going to annex the areas that Russia's already annexed. They might gain a little bit more land. Russia, I think, is there trying to get Ukraine to back down eventually, which they're not doing, especially as NATO also announced during this meeting with Antony Blinken that they're planning on creating 100.
We got way more snow. So like out of my deck now, like the snow is like this friggin', it's like a lot. A lot of shoveling snow today. I'm going to go get a coffee. I'll be right back.
$1 billion euro fund for Ukraine. So they're not giving up on this war. They're not pushing forward for peace talks. Many of us thought a few months ago that when it was obvious that this war was just really not going to go the way the West wanted, we really thought that they would start pushing for peace talks. There was chatter about it, pushing for peace talks. And now they're ramping up in the other direction and saying, no peace talks. We're going to do $100 billion euro fund for Ukraine as Europeans are their middle class is crumpling. They've got skyrocketing utilities, gas utilities, especially since they've been cutting off Russia and blowing up pipelines. They've got food prices are on the rise in Europe. They've got all these problems in Europe, but they're going to give $100 billion to Ukraine to fight a war that they cannot win, and a war that's likely going to last probably 20 years. I would imagine it's going to be like Afghanistan, where they're just going to have this Russia holds certain areas for decades. Ukraine doesn't ever concede. They continue to claim that they're at war with one another, when in reality, there's very little fighting. There's nothing, it will drag it on. It'll be kind of one of these stalemate wars, sort of like North Korea and South Korea, right? So it'll kind of end up like that, maybe a little bit more intense than that. And so they're going to be in this war for decades. So there's no way they can join NATO while they're in a war. So this is just posturing. It's just crap. When is Ukraine going to pull its head out and realize that the West is not your friend? They're not helping you. When it mattered for you and when you were actually invaded after 16 years of chatter of talking about being in NATO, they were not there for you. They did not show up. The French are talking about showing up. The rest of the Western countries are saying, don't you dare send any troops in there. France is like, it's just a few. Russia has come back and said about that, saying, if they send a few, they send a few. It's not going to really do anything. There's going to be a few more caskets. That's what Russia pretty much just said. So they're not intimidated by that. The world is worried that France will pull us into a greater war, but Russia doesn't seem to be interested in that either, from what they're saying about French troops being over there. So I suppose that's a good thing. But when is Ukraine going to realize that this is all just chatter? They're not going to let you in while you're in war. They can't. That's against the rules of NATO. And you're going to be in this war for 20 years at the rate you're going, unless you actually come to a peaceful negotiation working with Russia, the country that's on your borders, country that's actually sharing a people with you. And then Ukraine goes and lowers the conscription age in Ukraine. So they're going to throw younger men into the military. And so they're not going to have any young, fertile men in Ukraine. All the fertile young Ukrainian men are going to be very few and far between.
Yeah,
and so guess what the Ukrainian women are going to do? They're not going to go marry some Brit. That's not what these Ukrainian women are going to do. They're in Ukraine. They're going to marry a Russian.
Yep.
And then the Russians are going to end up taking over more of Ukraine just through just by genetics. I mean, they're just going to be going in there and the kids will be more Russian because their dad's Russian and mom's Ukrainian. They're speaking Russian. And most of the Ukrainians I know, of course, I don't know very many, but the ones I do know identify as Russian. They speak Russian. They were born and raised in the USSR. They feel Russian and Ukrainian. They feel both. They feel loyalty to
because the Soviet collapse happened in 91. Okay, so even me, for example, I would have been born in the Soviet era, being that I was born before 1991, and so anyone born before 1991, like you would have been still part of like the Soviet Union and not part of Ukraine or Russia or any of that stuff. So there's a lot of people that are in the area that they're calling Ukraine right now that very much heavily identify as Russian. And this is what I mean. People are so fucking ignorant. I've talked about this for years as well. And even the elections were being exploited and targeted, and there's been political prisoners and religious prisoners, and coups and corruption and lies and crisis actors. Like you can't, like I could go on a list again, but I've talked about this. And there's people within government that are getting the wrong intel. And they're believing this bullshit, stupid intel by people like Wayne Eyre, our chief of defense staff, who I've repeatedly tried to get in contact with. And when I've showed you stuff from like the high levels of RCMP, like the emergency response teams and CSIS and CBSA and all that fucking stuff, JTF2, etc. These are people I still, at the higher levels I was working with, and some people I still do work with or still have those connections. But I've severed those ties, unfortunately, because of what I've shared for the last several years, since like 2016 onwards. It's gotten a little bit more diluted with misinformation, so to speak. And so anyone speaking out on the truth is being seen as like a conspiracy theorist from within, or seen as like a fucking extremist. And it's like, you're the extremist. And they have no idea even what happened in Ukraine in 2014, 2015. Oh my God, I'm a nightmare. And so I was training the higher levels of global affairs Canada as well, even in the last few years. And I did that for a few years. And that's why I still should be training these units, these teams, because I was the best at it. And I have the most awareness, situational awareness of what's going on in the world, both with natural and man-made disasters that these people are supposed to be responding to. And because of global affairs, I was saying it's not a globe. A few years ago, even. So this was before I even started saying any of this fucking stuff, like on social media. Like I was trying to bring this information to the government, the good way, the decent way, the honorable way, because I thought that it should be from the government that this information be released. All of this information about 9/11, about January 6th, about the Freedom Convoy, even like, again, Russia, Ukraine, Afghanistan, Israel and Palestine, all of this stuff. You know, for years, I'm like Holodomor, USS Liberty, Northwoods, World War I, World War fucking II. Oh my God. Like there's like more stuff to look at. And people are still refusing to within these networks. And so this is like, I've literally lost so much for what I've tried to share. And yeah, it's unfortunate.
You know, they feel ethnically Russian and nationally Ukrainian, and they might even be pro what's going on, you know, pro Ukraine in this war, but they're still, you know, at the end of the day, they're still Russian speaking people, ethnically Russian, and they're mixing and marrying and hanging out with the Russians.
And it was ego, because like the directors of global affairs too, and like I even went above that level as well. I won't say names, but to the higher level, and they're probably not even working in these positions anymore. And I was saying like about stuff, but I'm like, this is really important to fucking know. And yeah, like no response, nothing back, and that's ego. That's ego. Because I know these people, and I would highly like, I doubt they know like everything. I doubt it. And because like the running joke, even Afghanistan era, was that no offense to global affairs and people that are working from other government agencies that were deploying with us in certain kind of like elements, we made fun of you guys because like not only were you guys disasters overseas and like very much like not strategic or tactical, and like made fun of like so many dangerous things that you guys would do overseas. Like, oh my God, like zero training clearly with anything that you need to be trained on. So like the hostile environment awareness training that I teach, you need that. The standing rapid deployment team courses that I teach, you need that, because there's also a security element to that, like the pre and post deployment stuff, like the actions anyway, all of that stuff. And scenarios, practical scenarios that people do on the ground. And like I was using assets like the airports, the hospitals, prisons, even Huntmar, who turned on me. I was actually like facilitating, and Helen too, by the way, is part of this stuff. Like even like after I got out of the military, I'm saying like I was doing all this higher level stuff and working with the Special Forces Five Eyes community. And I'm trying to share information with them. And I'm telling you, they're like, these people are good people for the most part, but they're either letting ego get in the way. These like alpha fucking male types that are not alpha. They're like the toxic masculinity, and they don't think that women, you know, are smart. So they don't even like listen to that. Right. Yeah, they're not fucking listening yet. And I keep trying and I keep trying, and I just keep on getting attacked.
From Russia, not just Ukrainians. It's a very mixed group of people that are very much intertwined. They are related and literally, not only just figuratively. So I don't know what Ukraine is doing, but this is just insane that NATO continues to say, we're going to give you $100 billion. We're going to let you into NATO one day, another false promise. And yeah, keep fighting those Russians, because we're afraid that if you don't fight them there, they're going to, well, look, they know Russia's not going to expand beyond Ukraine. Russia's made that very clear. They know that Russia's made it clear that this is a inner family fight to the Russians. They view this as a family fight. They don't view this as expanding
It's none of our
outside
business.
of their family. This is their family. That's how they look at it. And they say, we're not interested in the rest of you. This is between us. Let us be with that. And so this isn't even about stopping Russian expansion or Russian aggression. This is really, truly just about trying to debilitate Russia from growing economically.
And the opposite
From
happens.
strengthening their geopolitical position, from growing a multipolar world, especially now that Russia's joined forces with China. That was the big mistake. Had the United States embraced Russia after the Cold War, maybe undoubtedly Russia would have sided with the West and would have embraced the West, because they are more like the West, culturally, religiously, even looks-wise. They are more like the West than they are the East, and they would have done that embrace, but they didn't. And now the U.S. and the West are trying to do everything they can to stop the rise of the multipolar world, which is, there's no stopping it. There's no stopping it at this point, but they can sure try, can't they? That's what they're attempting to do. But I just wonder when Ukraine, when I see this, when is Ukraine going to just realize, like, these are the popular kids that they keep saying, yeah, one day you'll be part of yeah, we'll invite you to the party. Yeah, we planned. Oh, sorry, we didn't invite you to the last one. Something came up. Just being infected with a virus and dying a miserable death through that freaks the living daylights out of people. And they figured out that is the freakiest thing that people can deal with, more than war, more than climate change and the end of the world as we know it. It is contagions. And they are playing this one up. They're saying that this, they say, the doctor says, therefore, in my view, I think this is a virus that is the greatest pandemic threat playing out in plain sight and globally present, he said.
Disease X.
Oh my gosh. John Fulton, a pharmaceutical industry consultant for vaccines and the founder of Canada-based BioNiagara, who organized the meeting, also expressed his concerns, the Mail reports. This appears to be 100 times worse than COVID, or it could be if it mutates and maintains its high case fatality rate, he said. Once it's mutated to infect humans, we can only hope that the fatality rate drops. Dun, dun, dun. So everybody beware. They're going to do this to us year after year after year. We get out of the, look, these types of flus have been circulating for a long time. And they always say, oh no, this is a bad one. This is a really bad one. And it ends up, maybe being a worse flu than previous years. Maybe it does kill more people, but life goes on. We don't shut down. We don't lock down and force vaccines and get people to wear masks and do digital passports and, just harm the psychological and physical health of an entire world population. We don't do that, but they saw that it was effective. They saw that they could gain control. They saw that fear of contagion really does resonate with people. And I don't know if that will work again as well as it did the first time. I think fewer people are afraid of contagion than, once they got COVID, the people that were deathly afraid of COVID, once they got COVID, they got over COVID and they said, oh, okay, I had COVID, I got over COVID, it wasn't that bad. For the vast majority of people. So we'll see if they are able to pull the wool over our eyes again, but guys, I hope not. But here it is. It's happening again. It's happening again. All right, guys, that is it for today's show. Thank you so much for joining us. Really appreciate you watching. We will be back again. We're probably going to.
Anyway, I do want to talk about the groundbreaking discussions about the laws of nature and reassessing the laws of nature. And so I want to be part of that friggin' crew. Harnessing, there we go. Nope. This is from the Real Verbs, posted a year ago. Harnessing energy as an open system, John Searl's SEG, the Searl effect generator. Seg, Searl effect generator. We need to talk more about those things.
This is Amy, just one of an uncountable number of negatively charged electrons seeking a positive destination. She finds the positively charged neodymium core irresistible and enters the Searl converter device, becoming part of an enormous reservoir of electrons. Inside the neodymium, Amy meets Neo, an electron from the neodymium core. These electrons are drawn to the powerful magnetic flux
sine waves, circular motion
line penetrating the 4 layers in the Searl design. They join together, forming a boson pair as they spin around the magnetic force, releasing them on their pathway to freedom. As they enter the gate layer, they are compressed, feeling pressure to exit the system. At the same time, they are pulled and accelerated by the magnetic layer. Their energy continues to increase, racing through the emitter layer, joining trillions of other boson pairs that form the eddy current on the surface of plate 1. The boson pair is captured by the roller and blasted into the positively charged neodymium core of the second stage plate, repeating the activity into the third stage of the Searl device. With tremendous energy, Amy and Neo are hurled forcefully into standard coils, where they are collected in the same manner as any generator of electricity. Nothing is created or destroyed. The circuit is complete.
Created or destroyed.
For generations, the way we've produced electricity has released emissions into our atmosphere, leading to harmful pollution. As we near a shortage of affordable fossil fuels, we are facing an energy crisis. But what if there was a clean source of energy that was not only efficient, but completely renewable? Imagine a sustainable energy source for your home that could save you tons of money on your electricity bill each month. One that would protect you from power outages. If you knew of something like this, would you keep your neighbors in the dark?
No.
Of course not. Now, what if your neighborhood shared this with the people around them? We could power entire city blocks, and soon enough, an entire country. Now, what if we were able to share this technology with the rest of the world, in remote locations where no power exists, or in developing nations with limited resources? Wouldn't the world be a better place? Wouldn't our planet shine brighter? What if you didn't have to imagine all of this? What if it was already possible? The SEG made available to you by Universal Energy is a clean, simple, sustainable solution to our energy crisis. The SEG works by drawing in and recycling free-floating electrons that are naturally occurring all around us in every environment. Once positively charged, the SEG draws in kinetically active electrons. The drawing in and emitting of electrons naturally forms the torus, which pushes the circular magnets of the SEG. We then convert the motion into electricity, same as every turbine, to power homes, businesses, cities.
Okay, so hyperboloids and toroidal fields being projected on a flat plane of inertia. This is a flat plane, and these are the fields.
Cities and beyond.
Oh yeah,
Just like,
and then even with like the spirals and stuff like that, the funnel, the spiral, the pyramid, as above, so below type stuff. That's also what I believe to be possibly at the center of the Earth regarding like the fields, like the centripetal and centrifugal forces, this electricity and magnetism that's being projected. I mean, we're experiencing light in motion at various, I guess, densities and temperatures and pressures. But and that's it's made up from the visible and non-visible light spectrum.
like a traditional turbine, whether it's wind or a hydroelectric water dam. The SEG harnesses physical motion to produce electricity. The best part is that it takes nothing from our Earth's resources and leaves nothing harmful behind. In fact, the SEG's
I'm gonna rewind that too, because he says like it's like with this the energy, harnessing more magnetic energy or direct energy, it's actually safer and less harmful for the environment. So with all this electricity and stuff like that as well, I keep saying that that's like also a pollutant. That's also really bad for the environment. And so like, anyway, people thinking that electricity is the answer to things, like you're fucking nuts.
is that it
Oh,
takes
good.
nothing from our Earth's resources and leaves nothing harmful behind.
You don't understand magnetism.
Dam. The SEG harnesses physical motion to produce electricity. The best part is that it takes nothing from our Earth's resources and leaves nothing harmful behind. In fact, the SEG's electron recycling process could help strengthen our Earth's atmosphere and clean our air.
How many years have I been saying this? Well, I mean, I guess you wouldn't know because I got to go back in my archives because like for years now, and I have witnesses. I've been saying that like we need to fucking look into like AC versus DC electromagnetism and the like how everything operates because it's the least harmful for us and for the environment. It's anyway. And
So it's not a question of whether it's possible.
Now,
the question is, do you want to help clean up our planet by using affordable, renewable energy?
Anyways, I thought that was super interesting. And yeah, that's basically all I had for today. Like I know it was like it's an early morning and you're probably just like tuning in and I'm about to head out, but I will be and I might tune in later. But on that note, I will leave it at that and I hope that everyone has a wonderful rest of your day.